They just gave the fox the keys to the henhouse in Putin, Eastern Europe. But it seems that Trump's followers are more concerned about the price of bacon than having detention camps and Big Brother always watching while under an autocratic government. Those words were sent to me by Dr. John Kerry, an American author living in China in the aftermath of Tuesday's election, in which America chose Donald Trump to be their next president instead of Vice President Kamala Harris, who stepped in at the last minute as the Democratic candidate following President Biden's withdrawal. Aside from the trepidation that many feel because of Trump's election, perhaps the saddest aspect is that more than 71 million Americans fell for Trump and his message of hate, his lies, his exaggerations, and his pie in the sky promise to fix the economy, which already is bouncing back from the disastrous COVID-19 pandemic. They forget that Trump thoroughly mismanaged the pandemic, resulting in millions of deaths. And apparently they don't care that he's a would-be fascist who apparently harbors hopes of installing himself as dictator. Harris did her best, but her messaging fell flat with white women, particularly whom she counted on to lead her to victory. Trump stacked the Supreme Court to get rid of abortions, but the price of bacon apparently trumped concerns about losing reproductive freedom. Unfortunately, Harris chose not to separate herself from Biden's policies, and many analysts believe that that's what cost her the election, especially as many voters unfairly blame Biden for inflation. There was Trump's promise to fix the economy by imposing massive tariffs on imported goods, from toys to automobiles. Do they not realize that if he does that, and he probably will, the price of goods will skyrocket? The price of imported products they buy at Walmart, for example, will suddenly jump by 20% or more. Perhaps they like Trump's plan to give another huge tax cut to millionaires and big business at their own expense. As the Washington Post Amber Phillips wrote the other day, Trump won after he campaigned on nativist and at times racist rhetoric about immigrants. The former president spent his campaign trying to convince voters that their financial livelihoods were better when he was in office. Trump also unleashed a tidal wave of falsehoods, promised to deport millions living in the country illegally, said he would protect American women whether they like it or not, and threatened to exact retribution against his opponents. That's the end of the quote from Amber Phillips. Apparently, 71.5 million voters who chose Trump paid no attention to that, or they actually liked the message, such as his deportation plans. Yet those Trump voters included many Hispanics. Do they not understand the implications of his mass deportation plans? Do they not resent his hate-filled rhetoric about immigrants being criminals and rapists and drug dealers who are set on destroying America? From emails that I've received and comments to my blogs and podcasts, it's clear that many Americans believe every word of that, buying into Trump's labeling of his political opponents as communists and the enemy within. We pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country, that lie and steal and cheat on elections, Trump said during his campaign. They'll do anything, whether legally or illegally, to destroy America and destroy the American dream. Close quote. Now, Amber Phillips wrote about some things we can expect from Trump in his second term, such as, well, he said he would not rule like a dictator if he returned to office, except for day one. He still denies he lost the 2020 election. And as part of that effort, he once proposed the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, though it's not clear what he meant or whether he could even do that as president. He says his political opponents, from Democrats to protesters to journalists, are the enemy from within and should be very easily handled if necessary by the National Guard or the military. He wants to pardon those who attacked the Capitol on January 6, 2021. He has a plan to fire rogue bureaucrats and career politicians and install loyalists in the federal government. He wants to use the military to put together one of the country's biggest deportation efforts in the past century, setting up detention camps at the border. He plans to fire special counsel Jack Smith, who's brought two federal cases against him after the Justice Department's investigation into his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election and the hoarding of classified documents. He's indicated he'll use the government and potentially violence to target his perceived enemies. He's talked of appointing a special prosecutor to go after President Joe Biden and his family. He suggested that former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney should have guns trained on her face during a war and mused about jailing his political opponents. Then, of course, there's the matter of Trump's own criminal convictions stemming from his false election claims, the January 6, 2021 insurrection, and the hush money case involving adult porn star Stormy Daniels. You can expect that those cases will be dropped as Trump pardons himself. They might even be dropped before that. And there's the matter of the recent Supreme Court decision that essentially exempts the president from being prosecuted for any action that he takes in his official capacity as president. Donald Trump as president with no guardrails to keep him in check is a scary thought. Compound that with the people he may well install in positions of power, like putting anti-vaxxer Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in charge of health in some official capacity, or making Elon Musk, who helped him buy his victory, some sort of government efficiency czar, and the future of our country is difficult to imagine. And with the Senate now in the hands of the Republicans, there seems to be little that can stop him from achieving his goals. What led to all of this? Well, our new book, Hijacked Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness, the sequel, in a series of lean to the left essays, tracks key political developments since the insurrection and helps us understand how this happened. The chapter explaining the Republicans' Project 2025 is particularly enlightening. Project 2025 was written by former and likely future leaders of his administration and is a dangerous manifesto for his administration going forward. Project 2025 would make reproductive care, particularly abortion pills, harder to obtain, eliminate the U.S. Department of Education, close the federal agency that forecasts hurricanes, build camps to detain children and families at the border, ban transgender people from the military, potentially require mandatory military service, replace career civil servants with Trump political loyalists, open the door to a national abortion ban, and much, much more. Trump claimed he had nothing to do with Project 2025, but many of his provisions found their way into his campaign rhetoric, and those who helped create it are expected to be included in his administration. The government you elect is the government you deserve, wrote Thomas Jefferson. Those 71.5 million Trump voters will discover over these next years that those words are absolutely true. After all, what's more important, the price of bacon or your own freedom?